Hare Krishna. Wait. Hare Krishna. Okay, very good. Chapter 7 of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, as it is, by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Text number 1 of Chapter 7, Knowledge of the Absolute. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, Maya Shakta Manakparta, Yoga Myunjan Madasraya, Asamsayam Samagram Mam, Yata Gyasyasi Tatshrinu. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Now hear, O son of Prithu, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt." Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Now hear, O son of Pritha, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt." Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. In this 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the nature of Krishna consciousness is fully described. Krishna is full in all opulences, and how He manifests such opulences is described herein. Also, 4 kinds of fortunate people who become attached to Krishna, and 4 kinds of unfortunate people who never take to Krishna are described in this chapter. In the first 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita, the living entity has been described as non-material spirit soul, capable of elevating himself to self-realization by different types of yogas. At the end of the 6th chapter, it has been clearly stated that the steady concentration of the mind upon Krishna, or in other words, Krishna consciousness, is the highest form of all yoga. By concentrating one's mind upon Krishna, one can be able to know the absolute truth completely, but not otherwise. Impersonal Brahmajyoti or localized Paramatma realization is not perfect knowledge of the absolute truth, because it is partial. Full and scientific knowledge is Krishna, and everything is revealed to the person in Krishna consciousness. In complete Krishna consciousness, one knows that Krishna is ultimate knowledge, beyond any doubts. Different types of yoga are only stepping stones on the path of Krishna consciousness. One who takes directly to Krishna consciousness automatically knows about Brahmajyoti and Paramatma in full. By practice of Krishna conscious yoga, one can know everything in full, namely the absolute truth, the living entities, the material nature, and their manifestations with paraphernalia. One should therefore begin yoga practice as directed in the last verse of the 6th chapter. Concentration of the mind upon Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is made possible by prescribed devotional service in 9 different forms, of which Shravanam, or hearing, is the first and most important. The Lord therefore says to Arjuna, Tatshrinu, or hear from me. No one can be a greater authority than Krishna, and therefore, by hearing from him, one receives the greatest opportunity to become a perfect Krishna conscious person. One has, therefore, to learn from Krishna directly or from a pure devotee of Krishna, and not from a non-devotee upstart puffed up with academic education. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, this process of understanding Krishna, the Supreme Personality Godhead, the Absolute Truth, is described in the second chapter of the fourth canto as follows. Shrunvata swakata Krishna, punya shravana kirtana, hiryantaksto hiyabadrani, suhit sritam, vidunoti suhit sadam. Nasta prayesu abhadresu, nityam bhagavata sevaya, bhagavati tamasloke, bhaktir bhavati naistiki, tadarajas tamobhava, kamalobadayas chaye, cheta itar anavidam, stitvam sattve prasidati. Evam prasana manaso, bhagavat bhakti yogata, bhagavat tattva vijnanam, muktasangasya jayate. Vidyate hridaya grantis, chidyante satya samsaya, shiyante chasya karmani, justa evat manishware. To hear about Krishna from Vedic literatures, or to hear from him directly through the Bhagavad Gita, is itself righteous activity. And for one who hears about Krishna, Lord Krishna, who is dwelling in everyone's heart, acts as a best-wishing friend and purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him. In this way, a devotee hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam and from the devotees. He becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord. By development of devotional service, one becomes freed from the modes of passion and ignorance, and thus material lusts and avarice are diminished. When these impurities are wiped away, the candidate remains steady in his position of pure goodness, becomes enlivened by devotional service, and understands the science of God perfectly. This bhakti yoga severs the hard knot of material affection and enables one to come at once to the stage of asamsayam samagram, understanding of the supreme absolute truth, personality of Godhead. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.17 to 21. Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotee in Krishna consciousness can one understand the science of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this is a wonderful verse because it teaches us how to understand Krishna. If we learn how to understand Krishna, all our problems in life will go away because we'll engage in devotional service to Krishna. We won't be sidelined by other mundane things. Understanding Krishna is the summum bonum, the best thing you can do if you want to be liberated from the cycle of birth and death. Therefore, the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra and also the chanting of the Shastra that we just read is meant to help us understand who is Krishna, how to serve Krishna, how to love Krishna, and how to always be engaged in the service of Krishna. That will lead us to have a very peaceful and happy life and not be in any way disturbed by the different things that happen in life, especially miserable things that happen often in life. We will not be disturbed by those things because we have full love and faith in Krishna. And how do you develop that faith? It's by associating with Krishna's devotees and regularly associating with Krishna's devotees and regularly having prasadam with devotees and regularly hearing Bhagavad Gita spoken by genuine devotees. Then we develop genuine spiritual knowledge. And that knowledge will liberate us from all doubts. In the material world today, there are many doubts. Why? Because people are not so interested in Krishna. They're interested in eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. They're interested in making money and spending money. And they're interested in vacations, and they're interested in all kinds of what you would call activities that takes their mind away from God or Krishna. But when you become serious and you begin to hear about Krishna regularly, just like in this temple, every day we talk about Krishna. Why? Because the more you hear about Krishna, the more you'll understand that he is the supreme personality of Godhead, and he is the only person who can save you from the cycle of birth and death. Nobody else can guarantee you that. But Krishna can, because he controls birth, death, old age, and disease. And when he sees that you are interested in him, to the point that you're willing to hear about him every day and chant his glories, as we do when we chant the names of Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, then Krishna takes an interest in us, and he'll do everything to help us to maintain our love and devotion for Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, when it says, Shanvata Swakata Krishna, Punya Shravana Kirtana, Hirdiantak Stohi Abhadrani Vidunoti Srit Satam. To hear about Krishna from Vedic literatures, or to hear from him directly through the Bhagavad Gita, is itself righteous activity. And for one who hears about Krishna, Lord Krishna, who is dwelling in everyone's heart, acts as a best-wishing friend and purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him. Nasta prayesu abhadresu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati utamasloke bhaktir bhavati naistaki. In this way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge as he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam and from the devotees. He becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord. Tada rajas tamobhava kama loba dayas chaye cheta etaranavidam stitvam sattve prasidati. By development of devotional service, one becomes freed from the modes of passion and ignorance, and thus material lusts and avarice are diminished. Evam prasana manaso bhagavat bhakti yogata bhagavat tattva vijnanam muktasangasya jayate. When these impurities are wiped away, the candidate or the devotee remains steady in his position of pure goodness, becomes enlivened by devotional service, and understands the science of God perfectly. Evam prasanamanaso bhagavat bhakti yogata bhagavat tattva vijnanam mukta sangasya jayate. Thus, bhakti yoga severs the hard knot of material affection and enables one to come at once to the stage of a samsayam samagram, understanding of the supreme absolute truth, personality of Godhead. And at last, vidyate hridaya grantis chidyante sarva samsaya shiyante chasyakarmani drista evat manishware. Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotee in Krishna consciousness can one understand the science of Krishna or the science of God. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. It is very, 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 very important to understand who Krishna is so that we can please Krishna and gradually develop love and devotion for him. And in that way, Krishna promises that if we develop love and devotion for him, he will protect you from all different circumstances, and therefore you have nothing to fear. His guarantee of protection is 100% perfect. So, to have that type of perfection is very rare. But Krishna's protection is guaranteed because he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the proprietor of everything in the universe. Everything has come originally from Krishna, and everything eventually will go back to Krishna. So if we have a genuine interest in Krishna, he will help us in every way to make tangible spiritual advancement in spiritual life, which is in the form of chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, chanting the holy names of the Lord, and also taking pleasure of the Hare Krishna Prasadam, and regularly hearing classes of genuine knowledge of the Vedas, just like I have read just now from the Bhagavad Gita as it is. This is the oldest book of spiritual knowledge in the history of the world. And it's all about Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then, vidyate hridaya grantis chidyante sarva samsaya shiyante chasyakarmani drista evat manishware. A devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge as he hears more about Krishna from the Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, and from the devotees. He becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord. By development of devotional service, one becomes freed from the modes of passion and ignorance, and thus material lusts and avarice are diminished. When these impurities are wiped away, the candidate or the devotee remains steady in his position of pure goodness, becomes enlivened by devotional service, and understands the science of God perfectly. Thus, Bhakti Yoga severs the hard knot of material affection and enables one to come at once to the stage of a samsayam samagram. Jai Shri Gaur Nitai ki jai, Shri Radha Nila Madhava ki jai, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And enables one to come at once to the stage of asamsayam samagram, the understanding of the supreme absolute truth, personality of Godhead, Krishna. Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotee in Krishna consciousness can one understand the science of Krishna, or the science of God. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So these are beautiful verses. When you develop a taste for these verses, you become spiritually empowered, because you're learning more and more about who Krishna is, and how, and especially how to please Krishna and serve Krishna, and eventually love Krishna with knowledge and service. Service to Krishna is the real purpose of the human being. Human beings are serving so many different things. But when you decide to serve Krishna, that is what we're really meant to do. We all should become servants of Krishna and offer Krishna a very nice prasadam, offer him nice songs, offer nice dances, offer everything to Krishna, and Krishna guarantees to protect his devotee and always make sure that his devotee is never forgetful of Krishna. Remembering Krishna is real meditation. So many people are saying, well, I'm going to meditate, but what do? They silently sit down, and they get bored after about a half an hour. Then they get up and they go away. And they don't really learn anything by that so-called meditation. And by the way, silent meditation is not recommended at all. However, when you chant Hare Krishna loud enough so that you can hear and others can hear that are near you, that's real meditation. And that's real mercy, because you're giving other people a chance to hear the Hare Krishna Mahamantra chanted. Teachings there are a lot of what you would call teachings today, especially when people think that silent meditation is spiritual. It's not spiritual. No. How do I know that? Because Arjuna, Krishna's dear devotee, he never engaged in silent meditation. He always chanted the names of Krishna. And so many other great devotees never engaged in silent meditation. They always chanted the glorious names of the Lord. Why? Because they're glorious names. That's why. When someone hears you chant very nicely the glorious names of Krishna, you become purified. Just like it says here, Nasta prayesu abhadresu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati utamasloke bhaktir bhavati naistiki tadarajas tamo bhava kama lobadayas chaye steta itar anavitam stitvam sattve prasidati evam prasana manaso bhagavat bhakti yogataha bhagavat tattva vijnanam muktasangasya jayate vidyate hridaya grantis chidyante sarva samsaya shiyante chachakarmani drishta evat manisware. These beautiful Sanskrit verses. And what does it say? To hear about Krishna from Vedic literature, or to hear from him directly through the Bhagavad Gita, is itself righteous activity. And for one who hears about Krishna, Lord Krishna, who's dwelling in everyone's heart, acts as a best-wishing friend and purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him. In this way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge. As he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam and from the devotees, he becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord. By development of devotional service, one becomes freed from the modes of passion and ignorance, and thus material lusts and avarice are diminished. When these impurities are wiped away, the candidate remains steady in his position of pure goodness, becomes enlivened by devotional service, and understands the science of God perfectly. Thus, Bhakti Yoga severs the hard knot of material affection and enables one to come at once to the stage of asamsayam samagram, understanding of the supreme absolute truth, personality of Godhead, Krishna. Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotee in Krishna consciousness can one understand the science of Krishna. See, this is beautiful. It's poetry. It's the truth. It's eternal. This knowledge is eternal. It is not temporary. There's so many things people are learning today that are all temporary. That means that there's no real purpose of those things because it's coming and going. But whatever knowledge is being said about Krishna, that's eternal. It's not coming and going. It's eternal. And when you're dealing with something that's eternal, that means that you're preparing yourself to live eternally, to not be subject to birth, death, old age, and disease. You prepare yourself for eternal life. Now, some people might say, "Oh, I don't believe that. Whoever, anybody who's born is going to die." Not really. Yeah, people who have no knowledge of God, yeah, they're going to be born and they're going to die. But a devotee who has dedicated his life to serving Krishna, and throughout his service, he eventually develops genuine love and devotion for Krishna, he will live forever in the spiritual world with Krishna. We must have this faith. Without faith, you'll never be able to do anything of real value. So, what has real value? Well, obviously eternal life. That has real value. You can't buy that. You have to be meritorious. You have to have actually knowledge of Krishna that eventually develops into genuine love for Krishna. You can't buy it, but you can develop it by regularly hearing about Krishna and associating with genuine devotees and always chanting the glories of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This Hare Krishna Mahamantra is extremely important for spiritual life. It has everything in it to help you become liberated from the cycle of birth and death. Because there are 3 words in this mantra: Hare, Krishna, and Rama. So the more you chant those transcendental names, the more you become purified. So everything is organized in Krishna consciousness to be always focused on Krishna. That is real meditation. It's not the phony meditation. People think that silent meditation is yoga. No, it's boga. It's not yoga. It's nonsense. You don't make any spiritual advancement by silent meditation. Some people say, oh, when I get a peace, I feel peaceful. No, it's nonsense. We're interested in love for Krishna. We're not interested that because you have a little bit of, let's say, stress, and if you do some silent meditation for 10 minutes, it gives you a little bit of relief from the stress. That is useless because the stress is going to come back again. Why will he come back again? Because you have no knowledge of Krishna. That's why. If you have knowledge of Krishna, you don't need silent meditation. You want to chant out loud so the whole world can hear about the glories of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is real, not this bogus silent meditation and other types of bogus so-called yoga practices. The number one yoga practice is to chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and gradually develop love and devotion for Krishna. That's real yoga. Okay, so I can say so much more, but let's stop right there. Are there any questions anyone would like to ask? Don't be afraid. Without asking a question, you'll never learn anything. If you ask questions, you'll learn something. And you'll be interested more and more to learn by asking questions. So, are there any questions? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. You can raise your hand if you have a question. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. There should be at least one question. Yeah, you make them comments. It's all right. Questions or comments. Yeah. Which one? The Srinvata Swakata Krishna? Yeah, okay.
During our classes,
And-
Bhagavatam classes in temple,
Yeah,
last time you told us to read that daily.
yeah,
From then we are reading that daily,
yeah.
including translation.
I always tell you to do good things, right? I don't tell you to do nonsense things. Yeah. Shinvata Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridyantaksta Bladrani Vidunati Srihitsatam Nasta Praesu Bhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Tadarajas Tamo Bhavo Kamalo Bodhayasche Stetirtaranavitam Stitvam Sattve Prasidati Evam Prasana Manaso Bhagavat Bhakti Yogata Bhagavat Tattva Vijnanam Mukta Sangha Sijayate Vidyate Hridaya Grantis Chidyante Sarva Samsaya Shiyante Chashakarmani Justa Evat Manisware. This is such beautiful Sanskrit, mantras. These are transcendental mantras. They're not ordinary mantras. And when you get a taste for this, your whole body and your whole aura of your body becomes purified. And then you really feel the transcendental love and devotion for Krishna. And these are choice mantras. And it says, to hear about Krishna from Vedic literature, or to hear from him directly through the Bhagavad Gita is itself righteous activity. And for one who hears about Krishna, Lord Krishna, who is dwelling in everyone's heart, acts as a best-wishing friend and purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him. In this way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge. As he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam and from the devotees, he becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord. By modes of passion and ignorance, by development of devotional service, one becomes freed from the modes of passion and ignorance, and thus material lusts and avarice are diminished. When these impurities are wiped away, the candidate or the devotee remains steady in his position of pure goodness, becomes enlivened by devotional service, and understands the science of God perfectly. This bhakti yoga severs the hard knot of material affection and enables one to come at once to the stage of asamsayam samagram, and enables one asamsayam samagram, understanding of the supreme absolute truth, personality of Godhead. Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotee in Krishna consciousness can one understand the science of Krishna. Isn't it beautiful? This is for a real benefit. This is what is going to help us in all situations of life, especially difficult situations, because we'll have faith that Krishna's promise, Konteya pratinajanihi nami bhakta pranashyati, declared boldly Arjuna that my devotee will never perish. So this is the gold standard promise that Krishna will always protect his devotees. That's the best promise. So why not take this seriously? It's very important. Otherwise, we will always be easily scared or doubtfulness, or be always nervous, not knowing what's going to happen next. We know what's going to happen next. We're going to chant Hare Krishna. We're going to go to sleep early, wake up early, and chant Hare Krishna. That's what's going to happen next in our life. And this chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra is the guaranteed way to make spiritual advancement. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Any other questions or comments? Questions or comments? Don't be afraid to ask a question. Okay, anyway, it's almost 9 o'clock, so I'll just read one more thing, and then we will adjourn. Manusyanam sahasresu kaschit jatati siddhaye jatatam apisiddhanam kaschin mam veti tatvata. These Sanskrit verses are beautiful. It's all poetry, very, very beautiful. Out of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection. And of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. This is Krishna speaking. And in the purport, Prabhupada writes, there are various grades of men, and out of many thousands, one may be sufficiently interested in transcendental realization to try to know what is the self, what is the body, and what is the absolute truth. Generally, mankind is simply engaged in the animal propensities, namely eating, sleeping, and defending and mating. And hardly anyone is interested in transcendental knowledge. The first 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita is meant for those who are interested in transcendental knowledge, in understanding the self, the super self, and the process of realization by jnana yoga, dhyana yoga, and discrimination of the self from matter. However, Krishna can be known only by persons who are in Krishna consciousness. Other transcendentalists may achieve impersonal Brahman realization, for this is easier than understanding Krishna. Krishna is the supreme person, but at the same time, he is beyond the knowledge of Brahman and Paramatma. The yogis and jnanis are confused in their attempts to understand Krishna. Although the greatest of the impersonalists, Sripad Sankaracharya, has admitted in his Gita commentary that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his followers do not accept Krishna as such, for it is very difficult to know Krishna even though one has transcendental realization of impersonal Brahman. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes, the primeval Lord Govinda, Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchitananda Vigraha, Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. It is very difficult for the non-devotees to know Krishna, although non-devotees declare that the path of bhakti or devotional service is very easy. They cannot practice it. If the path of bhakti is so easy as the non-devoted class of men proclaim, then why do they take up the difficult path? Actually, the path of bhakti is not easy. The so-called path of bhakti practiced by unauthorized persons without knowledge of bhakti may be easy, but when it is practiced factually, according to the rules and regulations, the speculative scholars and philosophers fall away from the path. Srila Rupa Goswami writes in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.101, Shruti Smriti Puranadi Pancharatra Vidim Vina Aikantaki Harir Bhaktir Utpataya